Caris LeVert returns for the Pacers, and yet everything is not all rosy in Pacerland. Lots of losses, weird shot selections, worst start since 2014-15. Lots to talk about the Pacers, and we'll get to it all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers, as always. My name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and the West Side Community News. And today, wowee, do we have a lot to get to. The Pacers on their worst start to a season since I started doing this show 5 seasons ago. So lots of not great stuff to get to, but also Caris LeVert returns. Chris Duarte still looks good. Some fun stats from the past to talk about and how it means about this Pacers team. Lots of fun topics today, despite the team's record not being fun. And joining me to do that, longtime friend of the pod, I think the most common guest I've ever had. That might not be right, but we'll see. You know him as iPacersblog. I know him as Derek Kramer. Derek, iPacersblog himself. Derek, how's it going, man?
It's crazy times right now.
Yes, it is.
Busy time for me. So many random things. We had a COVID scare. Been 20 months. We just had one with our kids after 8 days of daycare. So that was fun.
Oh, man.
But yeah, lots of craziness. The Pacers are so fun to watch right now.
COVID scares really puts basketball into perspective, at least, right? You're like, oh, whatever.
Right.
Who cares? So there's a lot of not good stuff to talk about with the Pacers, and we will, trust me, talk about many of them. But the biggest story is where I always like to start on these podcasts. And the biggest story about the Pacers right now is Caris LeVert returned to the lineup on Saturday. Rick Carlisle saying before the game that he would be on a limit of minutes. He didn't tell us exactly what it was, or that his rotation would not be normal because of Caris's return. What that looked like was just the first half. I think he played just over 15 minutes, nearly 16 actually to be exact. So that's a lot of minutes for one half for a guy who'd never played yet, but then he didn't play in the second half, so it makes more sense why they leaned on him so heavily. So before we talk about kind of that minutes load, Derek, what'd you think of Caris's first 16 minutes of this season?
I mean, it was great to see him out there, first of all, but it felt like the team just looked different with him out there. Like a lot of it might have just been they had to show more effort than that first game against the Raptors, but they were so much faster. Like Caris just made a huge difference in how quick they were playing, and he looked really good. Like it was you can tell how much they missed him offensively with what he can do that other players that they have just can't really.
A guy who can take 3 dribbles into the paint and then is a threat to do more than one thing, right? When Jeremy Lamb dribbles into the paint, he's probably going to shoot, right? And he's actually been playing pretty well on offense this year. When TJ McConnell dribbles into the paint, he's probably going to pass. And outside of those two guys, given all their injuries, that's it in terms of shot creators right now that can actually get into the paint and make something happen. So in LeVert's case, he could get into the lane and score. He shot pretty well. He was 6 for 10 with 15 points. He could dish. He had 2 assists. I think both were to Sabonis, so I might just be remembering that incorrectly. And was just a threat to spray the ball out to other guys. So other guys had lanes they could move in on. Like Miles Turner off of cuts had 4 assists. Miles Turner had 4 assists. Like that kind of stuff just opens up naturally as the game goes on. LeVert's minutes went well. They were a -2 in those minutes. They lost by 3. So about the same as the rest of the minutes, I suppose. But the offense definitely looked better. And I think that is something they need, especially with other creators like Brogdon and Warren on the bench.
Yeah, and I think Domas probably benefited the most. Like he got so many easy looks that he just hasn't gotten for a while this year, at least probably since the first couple games. Like you said, they just don't have anybody that could get into the lane and then give it to somebody else for an easy basket and also score. It's always one or the other for the other couple of guys that can get in there at all.
This might be a lazy stat to kind of define what he can do, but the first game against the Raptors, Sabonis shot 4 times, right? And then this time he shot 18 times. And they clearly figured out why he only had 4 shots and changed what he was doing a little bit. He took 7 threes too, which we'll talk about that later, don't worry. But LeVert was a big part of him being more free, both from 3 and from inside the arc to get more shots. And I think when your superstar was way the wrong word there. When your star can only take 4 shots, that's a problem. So having a guy who can make that not the case is good. Now, the problem, air quotes, with LeVert's return is he only played in the first half. And in the second half, Justin Holiday started, and they had to go shorter with their bench rotation. So a lot more guys like Brad Wanamaker were playing and more Lamb minutes, although, again, Lamb was good. So they didn't score as well in the second half. They had 19 points in the third quarter. They lost both the third and fourth quarter, couldn't keep up with the Raptors. So I think that's another way that his impact was obvious, is that they just looked flat coming out of the half without him.
Yep, exactly. Like, you just hope that he doesn't have to be on this minute restriction for too long. But yeah, it's the tale of two halves. Like, obviously the third quarters have been a thing all season.
It's our best third quarter of the season, embarrassingly. You can't laugh.
Impressive. That's the best one that they've had all year.
So LeVert, after the game in post-game media, said that this was the plan, which if we knew that, I think it would have been a little easier to watch the game for both fans and people. So I'm surprised they said a minutes restriction, but I'm surprised they didn't say the first half part, because if you're going to tell everyone he's not playing as much, just explain it. Whatever. Yeah. So he did say there's some level of he has to feel the response to his back on Sunday today. They didn't practice today, but they played a back-to-back. So if his back feels okay on Sunday, I'm guessing, and by guessing I mean it's pretty obvious that the next step is he'll play more minutes, and whether that's shorter stints, but now he plays all 4 quarters, or they go 3 quarters and then 4. I don't know. Their next opponent's pretty easy in San Antonio, so maybe they just go 25 minutes spread out over the whole game. No opponent should be considered easy for the Pacers, I suppose, at this point in the season. But that seemed like the next step. And Carlisle did kind of mention that, that's how injury returns work in general. But he kind of explained that would be how it goes is, okay, a response is good. He looks good. We'll ramp that up the next game. So that's the hope next time, is that they don't have to have that third quarter without him and that threat where they have to go back to a lineup without 3 starters, because that, we've seen that all weekend, basically since the Raptors game last Wednesday when Brogdon was out from the third quarter on. Without both 3 starters and your 3 best creators, they can't create shots. So they'll hope he can play the whole game on Monday.
Yeah. I agree that it's weird that they didn't say that he was only going to play the first half, because then the whole second half, you're just on your toes. Did he get another injury? He's on the bench, but did things not go as well as it looked? And so it was you're just waiting for that press conference at the end just to know, is he all right?
Yeah. And he is, which is good. He did media himself, which Derek knows this because he's covered a few games, but guys who are injured, they just don't bring them to the stand ever. Right. So he's not hurt at all. That was the plan. So as a result of something I just said, no Brogdon, he got hurt Wednesday, missed basically the whole second half of that game. And they were playing pretty well with him in the third quarter of that one. That could have been their first successful third quarter of the season. No Warren, obviously, TBD on his return. No LeVert until just one half on Saturday. So they've gone 3 straight games with missing 3 starters for significant portions of the game. We've had to see more role players play. TJ McConnell, Justin Holiday, Brad Wanamaker, Jeremy Lamb, those guys especially have had to play more without the starting guards. And Lamb plays well against the Raptors his whole career. I don't want to say that that's why, but he's actually playing okay offensively, well enough that you can keep him in the game. But in general, basically every role player for the Pacers has really struggled this past week and this whole season. And you can point a lot of directions for, okay, this is why this team is 1-6 right now. That 1-6, there's a lot of problems when you're losing that much. But I think you kind of agree with me that just a lot of these vets that we kind of expected, that we know what we were getting from them, they haven't provided that. And that's been a huge problem for this team in the absence of their best players in the starting 5.
Yeah, I think the biggest cases of guys that you expect to perform, they've been with the team for a couple of years and they've been pretty consistent, are McConnell and Holiday. If you look at their numbers, they're worse than, obviously it's a very small sample size, but over a whole season, these would be their worst numbers for their entire career. So McConnell's played better when he was on the process Sixers. Holiday hasn't played this bad since he was a rookie. It's just been rough for both of those guys. And with so many injuries, the Pacers just can't afford for those usually reliable guys to be this bad.
Justin Holiday, I'll start with him, is a kind of weird case to me, because the shots he's taking are open threes. All his shots are open threes,
yep.
Which Justin Holiday, if you're open from 3, shoot, great. I love that. End of possession for the Pacers. He's under 30% for the season. And, you can go, yeah, small sample size, 7 games. Like he had a stretch last year. I think it was right after Caris returned where he was really struggling too. So like we've seen this from him before, but they've lost by 1 twice. They were within 5 of the Bucks in the fourth quarter. They just lost by 3. They were right in there with the Raptors until Brogdon got hurt. They were within how many of the Nets in the fourth quarter? Like add all these losses up that are really close, and it's like if he was just at 35% from deep, they might be 3-4, 4-3 right now. And that's his most reliable skill. His defense has been a little worse. I'm gonna kind of give him a pass in the early season when he was ankle recovering. Ankling, that's a new verb. But just a little more from him there would be nice as well. But really, it's the 3-point shot's the big one, and even 2-point range, he's shooting just pretty good, but okay. His volume's down, so yeah, the reliable open shooter. And in the absence of McDermott, maybe their best catch and shoot guy this year, seeing him be under 30% is a big factor in these first 7 games.
Yeah, and I agree. For him, the ankle injury definitely seemed like it was hindering him early. I don't know if I noticed this in any of the previous games, but is his right wrist wrapped?
It is. I did notice that. I don't know why.
I don't know if that's maybe he's got something going on there because he's always the guy that plays through anything. Which is good, but if he's shooting this bad, of course they don't have they don't have anybody else to play, so he has to. But like if you can't make your shots, like I think he had 12 or 13 threes. So in the last game, he was like 4 for 12 or 4 for 13.
He took 5 in the first 3 minutes of the third quarter, right. And all 5 again.
There were 6
wide, wide open, and he only made the last one. He hit a corner 3, and then he even in post game, because I was kind of asking him because he's the most reliable shooter. Like, hey. Everyone on the team is shooting threes right now. Like everybody. Like, is that Carlisle's thing? You've been encouraged to shoot with past coaches. Who's kind of like, if Carlisle puts you in the game, he's allowing you to shoot. But he said in his case, after that stretch I just talked about with the 5 threes, he had one possession where he had an open corner 3 and he shot faked and put it on the floor. And after the game, he was really mad at himself for just not letting it fly. That kind of shooting under 30% is now impacting him beyond just the percentage, but in his decision making on open shots. So it's just a snowball effect on everybody that these guys aren't hitting shots. Hey guys, going to take a short little break here to talk to you about 2 great groups of people. First up, the good folks over at Indeed, because thanks to the great resignation, the job market is filled with once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. So how is your organization going to put together an all-star team? Your front office needs an all-star roster. You need Indeed. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. It's your go-to hiring partner to get everybody you need. Don't struggle to find your own quality candidates. Indeed can help you hire the right people right now. They're your partners on every step of the hiring process. You can find talent with the skills you need through tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessment, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes match your job description. You can even invite them to apply right away. Get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply. And let's also talk about the good folks over at DirecTV, because if you're like me, this will sound familiar. You have one device to watch your sporting events live, another to stream your favorite shows, a third to watch your sports highlights, or you've got your phone to stream stuff or watch one of those options. And there is a better way to get all that stuff you want together without the hassle. That's DirecTV Stream. It brings together your live TV and on-demand favorites like never before, so you can watch your favorite movies, sports, shows, all in one place. No more juggling remotes. No need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract. Get rid of all the clutter, get rid of the confusion, and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right, TJ McConnell, the other guy you said that I thought was an important addition here. The 3 ball is what it is. We'll get to that. I don't want to talk about 2 straight players and their 3-point shot. That just sounds too reductive, although it is a problem for McConnell that he is taking as many as he is. TJ was playing, I don't know if you agree, but I think he was playing differently than last year in their first 3 or 4 games. And then kind of at that tail end of this week, we saw him play more like last year where he was really getting in the paint and finding guys. And in the fourth quarter, the Raptors game was the best he's looked all season. But he's just kind of deployed differently. Some of it's that he's played like with LeVert or with Wanamaker, who has the ball instead of him. And sometimes he's taking shots he shouldn't take. But for him, I think when he's doing what he did last year, he still looks kind of just as good, but he's being used differently a lot where he's like not handling the ball or, not being the best full court pressure guy or being asked to catch in 2 threes. It's like he's still good when he's doing the right role, but he's kind of been in a situation where I feel like his struggles are that he's not being used in the way that made him good for this team in past years.
Yeah, like McConnell, he can really only be used in that one way, because if you try to make him a catch and shoot guy, like why? Like the Sixers used to put him in the dunker spot, right? Like that's a better solution if McConnell doesn't have the ball than putting him in the corner. Yeah, and then occasionally when he does have the ball, he's been taking those quick threes. Like it's one thing when they're in desperation, like into the shot clock, but when DJ McConnell is like taking a three within 10 seconds of the shot clock, the possession starting, like that's a F possession. Like that's not any kind of result you want to get. So it's very confusing with how he's been used this year. And like a lot of he looks good when he's, like you said, when he's doing that, but he has missed, he's missing more of those like little fadeaway twos than normal. He got a couple of them blocked, I think, early in the year, like which you just never would see. So yeah, it's just there's all these little things that could have made a difference in these 1 point, 3 point, 5 point losses.
He is at his lowest 2-point percentage since joining the Pacers, which is a problem on its own. And he's also he's at a lower volume than last year. And he was money from in that paint area. And then if he keeps shooting the same right from deep that he has this year, the first season with the Pacers in 71 games, so all but 2 games that season, he took 17 threes. He'll pass that in 14 games this season. His volume is way up from when he joined this roster. And so last year he hit 31.3% of 53s. That's not a volume that's big enough for me to make any big conclusions about his accuracy. But if he's that level of shooter, let's say, because all he took last year with Bjorkgren was wide open threes. Okay. So if he's that level of guy, he have to shoot 46% from 2 for it to be worth it for him to take a lot of threes. And even this year, when we're just talking about him being bad at shooting 2s, he's still at 50%, right? So I think he needs to cut the 3-point volume quite a bit, like 1 a game. If it's like last 8 seconds of shot clock, okay. I see you working on them every day, like fine. But it's like 3 a game sometimes, and I just don't. It's just usage for him. It's not even necessarily his effectiveness. It's just the way he's used. It's very strange.
I agree completely. Like we joked about, like there was all this talk about how much he worked with it. Like he worked with his dad on his shot, but it looks exactly the same. Like maybe pick somebody else to work with next time if you're going to take more.
All right, let's get this over with quickly. Do you see any reason Brad Wanamaker should play?
The only thing he's good for is the puns. Like that's the fun that I've been having. Like Brad Wavemaker, Brad want to make a shot.
You could just spell his first name as Bad. I can't believe you haven't done that.
Oh yeah, Bad. And his middle name is I don't. Bad. I don't want to make her. Yeah. So
yeah, I got the appeal of him. I really did. And in the preseason, he didn't suck. And then against the Raptors on Wednesday, he and McConnell's combined minutes, they won those minutes. So it's like, okay, I guess if he can just not be a negative playing a hybrid guard spot, that's fine. This weekend, he was really rough. Tons of turn. He's shooting 15% on the season, which is insane.
Over 7 in the last 2.
Yes, he's 2 for 13 on the season. That's such a small sample. So I was like, for every guy on the team, I'm not going to make any conclusions about their shooting, but that's not good. The biggest thing for me with him is he's playing point guard, but he is turning it over so much. Like he tries really ambitious passes. He's 7 assists, 6 turnovers, right? You can't have that from your lead ball handler trying to create shots. His defense is like okay. He's stocky, so he gets into guys, but he's short, and you're already limited by your height. So he is not giving them anything really, and they don't have other options. They have to give him like 10 to 12 minutes a game with the injuries that they have, but he's not giving them anything, and I don't know what they can even do. They can't play McConnell a ton more. Maybe if LeVert can play 30 minutes, they don't have to play him anymore, but that's kind of your only hope right now.
Like the only thing that they haven't tried is the 2-way guys. And like,
Yeah.
are they that bad and not ready that you really need to play Brad Wanamaker? Like, I just don't see how Giroux or Washington can be worse, to be honest.
There are very few players that I'm like, they should not play. You know how I feel about Lance. He is one of them. Brad Wanamaker is another. Brad Wanamaker has joined that club of like, I don't get what he's doing. Like, it's just very strange. It takes a lot of good shot making from the guys around him for him to be a positive at this stage. So.
Yeah. And you talked about like, he's got the ball instead of McConnell. Like, what?
Yeah. Let's go back in time. Okay, let's give him a tiny bit of benefit of the doubt here. I can't believe I have to do this. He's hit one of his 3 threes this year. If that accuracy is kind of legit, he shot 41% his first year with Boston, 36% on over 100 attempts his second year, right? Maybe he's an okay 3-point shooter. In that case, stick him in the corner and let McConnell handle the ball. I think that would be a way better way to give him 12 minutes a game. I mean, you're not resting McConnell in that case, but stick him in the corner with LeVert. Something like that, because then you can give McConnell rest with Brogdon out and not have this guy firing errant passes. And like every time he gets pressured, he doesn't know what to do, right? So that's another one that is perplexing to me why he gets minutes. Jeremy Lamb, I thought we might include in this segment, but actually has done okay this year, to his credit.
I can't complain about him. Like early on in the year, like I thought his defense was a big reason why the defense struggled overall, but there's so many other worse problems with how guys are playing that I haven't noticed his defense being particularly bad the last few.
The thing with Lamb that I've kind of maintained since he got here is his defense is bad. He just has to be good enough on offense to make up for it. And last year, even though he shot well, he wasn't. This year, he's shooting 48% from 3. That will not hold, but that's making up for it. Like, that is enough to make up for it. And he's getting to the line quite a bit. So enough. He's doing enough to not be a negative player, and they really need that given their weak depth this year. So Jeremy Lamb, flowers. Congratulations. We were all talking about Jeremy Lamb trades all summer because of the Pacers cap situation and his upcoming role. And then so many injuries at one position means he's suddenly very important. So good on him to be hitting 48% of his threes and kind of keeping the Pacers not embarrassing bench afloat this year.
If only Sumner was healthy.
Sumner would be very helpful this year, ironically.
So
yes.
helpful.
What's up, guys? One more break so I can talk to you about the good people over at Built Bar, because they are making the best tasting protein bars ever. I've tried so many of Built Bar's delicious flavors and enjoyed every single one of them. They are protein bars that actually taste good. They're 100% covered in chocolate. They're soft and easy to chew. They have a texture that matches their flavor. They're quite simply the best tasting protein bars on the market. They have so many delicious flavors that there's something for everybody. I love the peanut butter brownie and the new cookie dough one. My girlfriend really likes some of the fruit ones, like the strawberry and orange one. The cookies and cream is really good. If you haven't tried them all, you can get the mixed box where you'll get 2 of each of the 9 most popular flavors. Not only are Built Bars the best tasting protein bars out there, they're really healthy. 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, but only 4 to 5 grams of sugar and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy, and the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. So you got to try them yourself. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. That promo code again, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, I workshopped this idea of a segment with Derek in a DM before we started. He has a cool stat, and I think it's an interesting stat. Let's just see where this discussion takes us. The Pacers are 1-6. Their worst start since 2014-15. That was the year Paul George snapped his leg playing for Team USA and didn't play until the last 6 games, until the end of the year. They were not good that year. No one expected them to be good that year. This year feels different because they were supposed to be good. 3 years before that, 2012-13. The Pacers went to the conference finals that year. They won 49 games, battled through that playoffs to get to that conference finals. That team started 3-6. I think they were 2-7 as well. So they also limped out of the gate. That team was kind of new. Paul George was ascending at that time. Do you feel like it's grasping at straws to say that year can be the year you point to say patience? You know, they stunk to start that year and they finished strong that year. Or is that just finding a Pacers colored glasses way to talk about the start of a season?
Oh, just wait until I give you my season if you want rose colored glasses.
Oh boy. Okay, I like rose colored glasses because people are I think they had 2 1-6 stretches last year, and I don't want last year to be like the awesome year, but like it does happen. It does happen.
Yeah. It's
Go
just
ahead.
happening. It's just happening at the beginning right now. Like,
Yeah.
and there are signs that things will get. There should, at least in theory, get better. Like we talked about all the close games that they're losing. Like eventually, some things are going to go their way at the end of
Right.
games. You would think, but yeah, like I think the biggest problem with both of the seasons that we'll talk about and comparing and hoping is that it just feels like such a pipe dream for the Pacers to ever get healthy with this roster.
Yes.
So like I think with 2012, 13, no, Granger was healthy. Granger was healthy that year, right? Or
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Early season he was not playing. There was Hill, the normal guys, and the bench was Gerald Green, Hainsborough, Sam Young, DJ Augustine.
Yeah, so that was like his first year where he was struggling with health.
Yeah.
So in that way, you can say it's kind of similar, but they need some guys to step up. Like they were starting Gerald Green early. That's a big
They
reason
started
why
Sam Young in their second game that year.
Yeah, so they were like trying to figure out who that fifth guy was, and once they found Lance, then they really hit their stride. So they found a guy that could be that fifth guy, make the lineup work, and then they started to get it going. The season that I found is 97-98. So the year that they ended up taking Michael Jordan and the Bulls to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. First year coach for the Pacers, Larry Bird, Rick Carlisle, an assistant. So first year coach making an adjustment to that. I think they were healthy at the beginning of the year, but they started 2-5.
Okay.
So the 97-98 Pacers, who were a team that had been together for a long time, a lot of people probably were saying like they didn't make the playoffs the previous season. They had just fired Larry Brown. So there's some parallels. Like a lot of people probably saying maybe it's time to make some changes. Maybe it's time to switch some things up. But then the 97-98 Pacers won 9 out of 10. So if they're going to turn it around and, make some noise with even getting into the playoffs, they got to go on a winning streak quickly.
And the 12-13 Pacers, their next to games 10 through 20 went very well, and we all know that they closed that season excellently, and they started off the next year with like 15-1 or whatever it was. So I'm not
like 33-7 before the struggle, I think.
Yeah, they were insane that year. So I know you're doing the same thing as me, where it's like we know they're not going to make the conference finals like those two teams did. Like no way. But 7 games to start the year is not like the time to be concluding anything, especially with this past week where they were within 5 or 4 of their opponent with less than 5 minutes to go in all 3 games without 3 starters. Like I get that they're bad right now. They're 1-6. They have the worst record in the league. But that it's not like doom and gloom time for me. I don't even want to talk about the word PANIC at this stage of the season because it's stupidly early. But the non-comparisons with those are Reggie was on one of those teams and Paul George was on the other, right? They had the dude. They were less injured. So there's definitely some differences. And like we both just said, where they went on a run after that start, this team's schedule is hell for the next 3 weeks, right? So Brogdon was doubtful for Saturday's game. Maybe he can be back this week, and then they'll have 4 starters, which for this team is like a huge win. 4 healthy starters at the same time. Maybe they can go on a little mini run at that time or like look a little more credible. But I don't think 1-6 is like this deathly start that people are making it out to be. It could get there because of their schedule, but I don't think it's like, especially because even the Bucks game, they were kind of close. Like they've been right there in every game where they've had a chance at least to get it. So I'm not. Their record is bad, and we just talked about a lot of guys playing bad, but they're a lot closer to being pretty good than I think people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I agree. And that season I was talking about, like that 97-98 team when they started 2-5, like they lost by 2, they lost by 3, they lost by 6, they lost by 7, they lost by 3. So like they were figuring it out, learning what Bird wanted, and they lost a lot of close games at the beginning of the year. Hopefully it's not going to turn around to the extent that it did for that one of the best Pacers teams of all time. But you hope that eventually like things will start going their way. I agree. Like it's hard right now to see it, but
yeah,
like it should get better. It should get better.
Same story for 2012-13. They lost to Charlotte, ironically. Their first loss was by 1. Their third loss was by 3. Their fourth loss was by 2. Their fifth loss was by 2. Like, all these early losses are just so close. So we'll see if they can turn it around. Good opportunity with San Antonio tonight, who is not very good. Okay, burst segment here, or burst topic here, because we kind of already talked about it when I talked about Justin Holiday's quote. I actually kind of like the shots the Pacers are taking. They're taking a lot of threes and shots at the rim. They're trying to get into the paint with their limited creators to create those shots. Like I kind of like what they're trying to do. And I tweeted this without good stats or data. I just wanted to formalize these thoughts, but like it's the guys who are taking the threes or shots at the rim that's throwing me off. Sabonis took 7 threes last night. McConnell, we talked about, is taking multiple threes every game. Even though Turner is a decent shooter, he's taking a lot of threes every game instead of continuing to swing it. And maybe it's just because they're missing a lot. I don't know what they rank this season in 3-point percentage. I would like to pull that up. But it just feels like they're taking some shots that are strange. They are 14th in 3-point percentage at 34%, very down offensive year, and 14th in the league in attempts. So it just like I don't hate any of the shots the Pacers really take. They don't take any contested threes, or very rarely outside of Duarte do they take contested threes. But it's just like early in the shot clock, like you mentioned earlier, or who's taking it, like we've talked about. That's kind of rubbing me the wrong way. Am I off base there, or am I kind of getting close to something?
I think I agree with you. Like they're not taking those like mid-range twos very often. They're like Domas is taking a lot of threes, but I haven't seen as many of those like where he just like pounds the ball and goes one-on-one nearly as often as he did last year. There's that, I don't know, like he got into his little face-up crossover and then he airballed with that.
I like your movement you got to show me.
I got to do it for the YouTube, moving, give him something to look at, I guess. But like I haven't seen very many of those things. So it's the, like we talked about with McConnell, it's not only that he's taking threes, but it's when he's taking them. Like why early in the possession? Like that feels like that should never be a thing with him. It's like just trying to get those shots for the right guys, and then hopefully the offense starts clicking more and they start hitting more of those shots.
Yeah, a guy whose name we've barely said this show, because if they had won one game this weekend, I probably would have done a whole segment on Torrey Craig, because he had like a career game, an incredible Saturday game. Like he probably earned himself another week or two of fighting for rotation minutes because of that one game. But yeah, he was excellent that game. He is taking 3 threes a game. I don't know. He's hitting 35% for now, so I suppose that's okay. It doesn't ever look like it's going to go in. I can't explain why I don't like his offensive role, but I don't.
He shot like, I want to say 37%.
Yeah, he was okay at 3 last year. Maybe he's better than I'm giving him credit for.
It does. I agree with you. His shot doesn't look like it should go in as often as it does. I think that's the
another
deal.
Justin Holiday situation too. O'Shea Brissett taking only open looks, hitting 28.6% from deep. Right, like we know what he can contribute, but his off the dribble game has expanded. The rest of his profile not looking so good. Like he's shooting really well inside the arc too. So they're just taking some shots that I don't agree with. And I'm not the coach, And I actually, Rick Carlisle mentioned this. Like the process right now is what it is, and the results are bad. But you have to go through this process to get the results to be good. So I'm okay with them like ironing out their offensive system, and like guys are shooting shots that they're not used to being told to shoot. Like Sabonis shooting 7 threes. Neither of the last 2 Nate coaches have been okay with that, right? Or McConnell shooting at all. Like Justin Holiday said, if Rick puts you in the game, he expects you to be able to shoot whatever. So I think some of that is guys getting used to it, but it's just some of them are too early in the clock. Like maybe Nate McMillan was onto a little bit of something when he would hunt a little longer for maybe a slightly better shot.
Yeah. I just saw something about McMillan that like the Hawks are like pretty much Pacers offense from a couple years ago.
They're shooting mid-range shots. They don't have Lloyd Pierce's system anymore because Nate changed things up this year a little bit. So very strange. All right, we can close with some positive-ish stuff. There is no positives when you're 1-6 and half your team is hurt, but I like to balance things out here. Injury updates are never fun, but Caris LeVert returned. We talked about that. That's a positive. Isaiah Jackson, I thought we were looking at something really bad. And Rick Carlisle, the practice the day after that, said, yeah, he's going to be out for a while. And he landed on someone else's foot, immediately limped off the court. You see knee injury on the report. You don't know what it is. I thought it was going to be muscular. It's not. Isaiah Jackson, hyperextended left knee. He's week to week. He'll probably be out for a while still, but no muscle damage, which is good news. So he wasn't in the rotation. This doesn't really impact their ability to win. It does give Goga more chance to play. I didn't even put him on there. We'll get to Goga momentarily as well. But Jackson dodges a muscle injury, even though he'll be out for a while. I suppose an injury is always bad news, but compared to what this could have been, I was kind of like, yeah, that's good. They'll take that.
Yeah, that's the state of the Pacers, right? You're just like, yeah, he's only out for
Couple weeks,
the whole season.
Yeah, that's so Pacers that we're excited to see a guy only out for a few weeks.
The Pacers have been like struggling to find an identity. Their identity is shorthanded. Like that's
shorthanded
the identity of the Pacers.
Week to week shorthanded. Yeah, no kidding. Malcolm Brogdon has a strained hamstring. He missed the second half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter of the Raptors game Wednesday. Didn't play against Brooklyn, was doubtful against Toronto on Saturday. Doubtful is a step up over directly out, so I think it's possible he's back maybe midweek this coming week, maybe even against the Spurs. I kind of doubt it. His recoveries are usually a little longer on these kind of things, so 5 to 6 days seems about right for a hamstring strain. Perhaps I forget who they play Wednesday after San Antonio, but that game could be a return for him, or Friday in Portland when they're back on the West Coast, which you hate to lose starters, but that's not too bad for a guy who usually misses several weeks for standard injury.
Yeah, I don't know what else to add to that.
The updates are what they are. I feel like every show I do injury updates, and I know people want them, so I have to do them. But
yeah,
it's like this show is all about injuries.
You could have a 30-minute show on Pacers and just injury updates. So
we were going to talk Chris Duarte because he's actually the most exciting thing so far this season. But last thing, news-wise, Goga Bitadze's fourth-year team option on his rookie scale deal was picked up on Saturday before that game against Toronto. I wrote about that in detail on Forbes and did a podcast segment about why I thought it made all the sense in the world for them to do that, even though he might not have a role right now. There's a chance one of the bigs in front of him gets traded. Isaiah Jackson's hurt, so he was in the rotation the night after it got picked up, playing inside some of those huge lineups with Sabonis. He's definitely better this year than last year, especially defensively. So I think that makes sense. We'll see if he can ever find a way to finish some plays on offense. But he's got 2 years to grow now with this Pacers team. I think that was the right choice.
Yeah, no brainer. Like there's no reason to let that contract and that cheap deal for a guy that could be a solid rotation player if they ever actually need him to be one.
Yeah, if they end up trading the big on $4.8 million as a backup next year, that's a great deal, right? I think he can do a backup center role fine. Probably right now, he'd be a little overmatched right now, not too much, I think. So, yeah, I think that was a no-brainer, especially because they'll be over the cap next summer anyway, unless they trade like half their team this year, which they're 1-6. I can't officially rule that out yet.
Who knows?
It seems unlikely, but yeah, when you're 1-6, nothing is off the table in terms of big shakeups. All right, every show it seems like with someone I have to talk about him because it's the best thing about the Pacers right now. Definitely the most exciting thing for a rookie. Did you say better than Turner as a rookie for Chris Duarte so far?
I mean, yeah, we didn't even see Turner for like 20 games or something because he was out. So yeah, this is like easily. I think summer league wise, Miles was very exciting.
Yeah.
But like regular season start, yeah, I think Duarte is definitely
even
better.
Paul's rookie season wasn't that great.
Yeah, because he was. I mean, I think he said the favorite part of his rookie season was when Jim O'Brien got fired. So, so he was not having fun. He was not having fun early on in his career.
No, he was not. He did not get to play very often early on in his career. Danny's rookie year was not super exciting either. So of the stud guys or like really standout Pacer rookies, basically of this century, which is crazy to think
the last one, maybe.
Tinsley was good. I forgot about him. That's right. Tinsley was very good at the start of his career.
Yeah, he had something like that 23 assist game at one point.
He was starting right away. Tinsley was. He started 78 games his rookie year, 9.4 points, 8.1 assists. That's right. I completely forgot how good his rookie year was. He had 23 assists in a game. I don't remember that. You're right. He did. Oh, my goodness. He played 45 minutes in a November game against the Wizards. His rookie year had 23 assists. Jamal Tinsley, everybody. Okay, so wow. Jamal Tinsley and Chris Duarte making it in the same sentence. But Chris Duarte, best Pacers rookie during his rookie year since Tinsley, who was good until a lot of other stuff happened to his career. So hopefully that stuff doesn't happen to Duarte. But it's great that they finally have an exciting rookie. And not only that, maybe I'm the only one who's like overthinking this, but I was reading an ESPN article about Rick Carlisle from Tim McMahon, who covered him for a long time in Dallas. And I think Carlisle mentioned it to McMahon that like part of the reason Carlisle was let go as the head coach in Detroit is he was very hesitant to play young guys at all back then. Tayshaun Prince was named in this piece. He was young back then. And we've heard that reputation from Carlisle even as recently as like this half decade, right? With like guys like everybody but Luka, basically, who they drafted in the last 5 years. So for him to not only be this trusting, where he's giving Duarte a ton of minutes, he's played 36 minutes a game right now, but also giving him the range to shoot 16 times a game, I think speaks a lot of how Carlisle feels about his skills already, and he's certainly living up to it now. He's making shots all over the court and has been one of their best clutch performers. So Duarte looks legit and awesome, and they really needed that given where this team is headed. So it's been awesome to see him actually step up and meet expectations.
I agree. Yeah. And it's good to see, Carlisle playing him. I think the biggest reason is probably just he doesn't have a choice. Like, who else is he going to play instead of Duarte? But yeah, it's obviously a very good sign that Rick Carlisle, of all coaches, is starting this guy, playing him over 30 minutes a game, giving him freedom to like make mistakes, and like he turns the ball over sometimes. Like, he's learning how to do certain things. He takes tough shots and he's not punished for it. So that's a good sign. Like he looks very good. His coach trusts him. All positive things for him so far.
Yeah, he's just holding off the more turnovers and assists thing. That's clearly his biggest weakness. But he's a rookie who's a scorer. He's not a passer. And if his teammates, as we all mentioned, could actually like make their shots, that would also probably help his assist numbers. So yeah, Carlisle's letting him work through those mistakes too, which is good. And even beyond Carlisle trusting him too, like if you're a vet on a team that's trying to be good and your coach is putting out a rookie out there who's shooting all this time, like I could see these vets getting frustrated if he has some bad games, but he continues to not, and they all continue to trust him. They're like, yeah, I'll run pick and roll with you. Sure. Like, oh, you're open? Yeah, shoot. That's pretty impressive too from a group of vets that are really hungry to win. So getting the buy-in from his teammates is just as important. And Duarte's done just that. I think that's really important too for his prospectus the rest of the season. On the off chance, 1 in 10 maybe, that they have 5 healthy starters at the same time, we'll have some interesting conversations about if Duarte should start on the wing somehow, because he's been very promising to start this season.
Yeah, it feels like such a impossible thing for every Pacer to be healthy.
Maybe that'll be something I have to talk about one day, but
who is going to start once everybody's back? Like, it feels like Duarte will be that 6-man guy. But yeah, you never know. I mean, who knows what they're like, if they're limited with Warren when he does come back and all of that goes with that. So yeah, very, very interesting to think about, to dream about.
His defense has been good too, which
good.
No rookie's team defense is good at all, but his on-ball defense is certainly good. Yeah, his on-ball defense.
I've been impressed, like, because he defended, I think, Jimmy Butler a few times, like without fouling, which is so hard to do. Like, he's incredibly gifted at getting the whistle. And drawing contact and getting fouls, and like he flops effectively. Like, as a rookie to do that, like he can do it and sell the contact and get the call. Like that's an incredibly good gift to have. Like, as much as you don't like to see flops, like he's good at it. He sells the contact well.
This is half state of the Pacers and half a credit to his on-ball defense, but they played the Nets, who have James Harden and Kevin Durant, and Rick Carlisle's like, hey, yeah, you're guarding James Harden. And then when Harden comes out, I'm going to put you on Kevin Durant. And then they did. It wasn't like terrible. Harden killed them, but it wasn't terrible. So more credit to Carlisle, I guess, for giving him those opportunities.
Yeah, he had that one like real bad reach in on Harden's drive. But other than that, yeah, like you can't complain about how a rookie does against either of those guys.
No, the fact that he didn't embarrass himself, honestly, is all I care about there. It's been interesting to like just cover this team for 7 games, because they're 1-6. That's really bad, but they're so close to being a lot better. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're close. They've lost every time, but it just feels like a tipping point will come at some point where either they get really frustrated outwardly that they're whatever their record is, or it will click when something comes back. Perhaps LeVert's return and maybe Brogdon coming back before anyone else gets hurt. I'm knocking on my wooden desk. It could change the fortunes, but we'll see. It's been a very fascinating start to the season. Do you have any closing thoughts for me, Derek Kramer?
I agree. Like, I think it's gonna reach a point where either it's gonna go down and they're not gonna figure it out. They're just gonna get more and more frustrated, and then changes are gonna have to come, or they'll start figuring it out and get into the playoff conversation.
To the credit of everybody so far, no, outside of Sabonis saying we need to try a little harder, there's been no outward frustrations about anyone's play per se. So I think they kind of think the same way we do. It's just like, dang, this sucks, but we're right there. So we'll see what happens. Derek, where can people follow you and all your stuff?
Twitter at iPacersblog. You can look at my old website that hasn't been written on for 2 years if you want to.
I just want you to update Miles High Club. That's all I really want.
I need to. I don't even know how far behind I am, but somehow he's leading the league in blocks, and his minutes have been limited. It's like
Is he really this year?
I think he's ahead in total by 4. He's almost averaging 3 a game, even with having like a couple games he played like.
You are correct. He is. I did not know
15, 20 minutes.
I did not. That's crazy. His stats are hilarious for a guy who had a 40-point game. Yeah, I'll have to do a tough Miles conversation. Maybe not tough, a weird Miles conversation, depending on how his next week or so goes. Everybody follow Derek. If you're on YouTube, you can see his @ right over there. I don't know why pointing at stuff is so hard on a mirrored screen. Derek's laughing at me there. Or at iPacersblog. This podcast is on Twitter at Locked On Pacers and me at TEastNBA. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We'll be recapping Pacers Spurs tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you then.